Music festivals keep getting bigger, more expensive, and more elaborate, but are they actually getting better for the average fan? Hello, all my beautiful people, and welcome back to another episode of Valkyrie Sessions, the home for everything with woman in rock, metal, and heavy music. As always, I'm Aaron Jackson. Crazy, we are now at episode 9 already. Firstly, I want to start this by just giving a huge thanks to everyone for the support that I've had recently. Last week's episode blew up again. I know we have more Nene fans here. I know she performed on Tuesday's America's Got Talent. This is being recorded on Monday, so I'll have more to say about her and her performance on next week's episode. But yes, thank you to all of our new subscribers. I just a quick comment on last week's show. I know there were some people that were thinking because of the thumbnail that I was trying to make like a comparison that they're almost like the same talent wise. I have said before how much I appreciate Nene and her work. I do think that she is, or I should say at this point, was better than Brooklyn now that Brooklyn's out of the competition. I was simply just trying to highlight Brooke and her amazing voice and what she did on the show, and the fact that, she covered a song, the most popular song from like my favorite female vocalist, Amy Lee, and I thought she hit it out of the park. But no, Nene, yes, incredible talent. I hope that she goes on to win. I'm looking forward to seeing this week's show, and I will have more on her and how that performance went next week. And let's hope that she continues forward in the competition. Um, as far as this week goes, we got another fun episode this week with some more news regarding another kick-ass female guitarist, Nita Strauss, one of the best vocalists in the scene, Floor Jansen. But then I want to get into another big topic this week when it comes to music festivals, and that's what's missing from music festivals. Because I've got a few ideas and maybe a few complaints about how we can make the festival experience a whole hell of a lot better for the average fan. I'll also be talking about Spirit Box's Tsunami Sea, which came out last March, and also we'll have a thorough shout out of Red Hook at the end for my band of the week. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. First things first, NFL season is about to start up here in the next couple of weeks, and Nita Strauss is returning for her 7th season with the Rams. I've mentioned before that she has done some stuff with the Los Angeles Rams, and it looks like she's going to be continuing that. This is an article from Blabbermouth that came out a few days ago. Nita Strauss returns for her 7th season performing with the Los Angeles Rams, to be joined by her husband, Josh Villalta, on drums. Guitarist Nita Strauss is returning to the stage this weekend to kick off her 7th season performing at Los Angeles Rams NFL games, continuing one of the most recognizable partnerships between rock music and professional sports. This season also brings some extra energy as Josh Villalta, Strauss's husband, manager, and drummer, will be performing at the games by her side. A drummer and performer in his own right, Villalta has spent years sharing stages with Strauss while also playing an integral role as manager behind the scenes in her career. His new role as drummer brings another live music element to the Rams' game day experience and puts the longtime musical duo side by side on one of the biggest stages in professional sports. Josh comments, quote, "To be brought in this year is an incredible honor. The Rams organization has been amazing to Nita and I over the years, so having the opportunity to officially join her makes this even more special. I'm excited to bring a new element to the game day experience. I have some cool ideas in mind, and I can't wait for the fans to see and hear what we bring to the stadium this season." Strauss has become a defining musical presence at Ram home games over the past 7 years, bringing her high-octane performances to one of the NFL's biggest stages. Her tenure with the organization has included the Rams' Super Bowl 56 championship and her own Super Bowl ring. Nita stated, quote, "There's only one thing better than playing your hometown stadium, and that's doing it with your partner by your side. Josh takes every live performance to another level, and I'm so excited for the fans at SoFi to get to experience it. Can't wait to rock the Rams house together." Widely regarded as one of the premier guitarists in her generation, Strauss's career includes a number one song on rock radio, more than 11 million streams across her solo catalog, worldwide magazine covers, signature instruments and products with Ibanez, did Ario, Levi's, and DiMarzio, and a resume that includes Alice Cooper, Demi Lovato, and WWE. I remember her performing in WWE for, I believe, a pay-per-view and something else at one point. The 2026 season comes during an already unforgettable year for Strauss and Volta, who welcomed their son Maxwell in June. Now the longtime musical partners and new parents will add another first as they take the Rams field together. You can catch them live. Actually, just happened this past Saturday as the Rams took on the Saints in the home opener at SoFi Stadium. So great stuff there for sure. Always love seeing, two of the things I'm most passionate about, sports and music, kind of clash with each other. I've mentioned how I'm a professional wrestling fan, and both those have clashed together multiple times. Obviously, she's been a part of that too. But it's always great to see that here. It's a shame, as you can see right over here, as I'm a Niner fan, that it has to be with a team that's in our division. But I can stomach that at least, and I'm very happy for her, and hope that she continues doing it for more years to come. And I'm very happy that she has her partner by her side. Hopefully, that makes for an even stronger performance throughout the season. I'll have to make my way out to SoFi Stadium. It's one of a long list of stadiums that are on my bucket list to check out in the NFL, and obviously hearing that performance live would be great too. And it wouldn't be the first time that a musical act in rock and metal with females has played live. I think that the Warning played at a halftime show at an Arizona Cardinals game last year. In fact, they were the first Mexican rock band to headline an NFL regular season halftime show in the United States. They performed tracks such as Automatic Sun during that Cardinals and Jaguars game at halftime. So great to see music and sports kind of colliding with one another, especially when it comes to these incredible women in heavier music. But that's not the only news I have for the week. I also have another piece of news. It's also from Blabbermouth. That came out a few days ago. Nightwish's Floor Jansen announces Hytris solo album releases Bring Me Silent single. Nightwish singer Floor Jansen opens a heavier and more direct chapter in her solo career today with the release of her new single Bring Me Silence. The track serves as the official announcement of her upcoming studio album, Hytris, set for release on January 15th, 2027 via Revamp Music and Warner Music. Concurrently, Jansen has confirmed the comprehensive Hytris Tour 2027, bringing her and her full live band to club stages across Europe and South America. Still want to see them live here in North America, but I know it's going to be hard to happen. It's the same thing with Within Temptation. Both great singers, Sharon and her, and they're always over in Europe or South America, never over here in North America, but maybe at some point. Floor comments, the world is constantly demanding your attention. Sometimes it becomes so overwhelming that you can barely hear yourself anymore. Bring Me Silence is about that longing for space in your head and system. For clarity, a moment where all is quiet and you can breathe all the way to your belly again and feel satisfied and at peace. She adds, quote, "This song is one of the first ones we wrote for the new album. Musically, it feels very natural to me. Metal has always been an important part of who I am. Its power, directness, and intensity are deeply rooted in me as an artist. At the same time, my solo work has allowed me to discover more openness and vulnerability. In Bring Me Silence, those sides come together in a very organic way." The new album Hytris does not look back for the sake of nostalgia, but rather takes the weight of her past and moves it forward into something sharper and unmistakably her own. Bring Me Silence builds on this foundation with down-tuned guitars, layered vocals, and her signature vocal power without losing the emotional depth of her songwriting. The release of Hytris sets the tone for an extensive international live run, moving between the fierce energy of her festival shows and the intimacy of her recent sold-out theater tour. The Hytris Tour 2027 will capture the full spectrum of Jansen's musical identity. So obviously, this is an album that I'm definitely looking forward to. Once it's released in January for sure. As I mentioned, just a moment ago, Floor is one of the best vocalists in all of metal. I've mentioned before on this podcast how I definitely like heavier music, but I also can't tell you how much I appreciate symphonic metal as well. Her and Sharon of Within Temptation are two of the best vocalists to come out of the Netherlands. Nightwish and Within Temptation are two bands on my bucket list of groups to see, even if that means I have to take a special trip out to Europe at some point. It's on my travel bucket list for sure. I listened to two of Floor's recent singles, including Run, which had a pretty heavy chorus along with a nice piano bit at the end, and then Bring Me Silence, which is also, super high energy and explosive and has a beautiful finish. So, yeah, can't wait for the whole album to come out. Definitely will be on my list and on a future episode a few months down the road. So, great stuff there. With that said, we do have another tidbit here for Valkyrie Voices this week. I've been very fortunate to be able to bring this segment in almost every week these last month or so, actually. I got another response from another phenomenal woman in the scene, Peggy Smits of Queen of Spades, which is a Dutch hard rock and metal band, continuing with Netherlands, formed in 2019. Their first album, Devil in Disguise, was released in 2021, and they're currently in the works for another album, already having two singles released in Chasm and Committed. The question, as always, is, what is it that you wish more people should know or would you like them to learn about women in rock and metal? Peggy stated, I wish people would understand more that we, women in metal and rock, just want to be acknowledged as a musician instead of a woman in this music scene. People still think women have something to prove, but I think a lot of powerful women in this genre already proved it. And also that our identity doesn't stop when being a mom. Women don't have to quit everything in their lives, like what happened in the past when becoming a mom. I want to show my children what it looks like to chase your dreams. Another very thoughtful response here. I like her first point too, because we've heard different versions of this throughout Valkyrie Voices before. At what point do we stop treating women succeeding in this genre like they constantly have something left to prove? There are so many incredible musicians who have already shown that your gender has absolutely nothing to do with whether you confront a metal band, shred on guitar, play drums, or do anything else within this music. I especially love that she brought up being a mom, because being a mother doesn't mean that suddenly your own ambitions, passions, and identity goals have to disappear. You can be incredibly devoted to your kids while still having those dreams belong to you. And I actually think there's something really powerful about your children being able to see that. Being up there on stage and kicking ass, performing heavier music, as we've previously mentioned, can inspire the next generation, but it can also make your friends, family, and community proud. My mom actually was in a smaller band when I was younger and played some gigs at some smaller bars and clubs and whatnot, or other venues in the general area I live in. Even though I was under 5 years old, I remember that slightly. She was even the front woman in another cover band actually a couple years back and played a couple gigs. And it's always great to see someone that you love doing something that they love to do. Peggy, talking about wanting her children to see her chase her dreams. I think that's awesome, because one day, her kids will look back at that probably, and not just remember that her mom is a mom, but also remember that, hey, she's doing what she loves. She's up there kicking ass on stage in a metal band. So I think that it's great stuff there for sure, and you should definitely go check out Queen of Spades. Peggy's a great front woman. And I think that's a really thoughtful response here for Valkyrie Voices this week. So thank you very much, Peggy. Very, very well spoken. Now we'll transition from there, and we're going to get into the big topic of the week here, which is what's missing from music festivals. And before I fully get into this, some of what I'm about to suggest already does exist at certain festivals. My problem is that too often the best parts of the festival experience are either disappearing or getting locked behind increasingly exclusive and expensive premium packages. So I've got four things I think that could make festivals better for everybody. And yes, if that means that my general admission ticket costs another 20 to 30 bucks, I'm totally okay with that if you're going to give me more for it. So let me get into my four ideas that I have. Number one, give unknown bands their shot. Have like a battle of the bands, if you will. Give, regional underground acts a national spotlight. You could have regional qualifying competitions in the months leading up to, a festival. Sacramento bands could compete for the Aftershock slot. Louisville bands could compete for the Louder Than Life slot. Columbus bands for Sonic Temple, etc. And you could do this for, other festivals too. Winner gets an actual festival performance, even if it's a 20 to 25 minute set at noon on a side stage. I think there's a marketing benefit to this as well. The festival gets months of content out of it. You post the bands, you have fans vote, show highlights, announce finalists, etc. It creates engagement before the gates even open. I've been talking so much on this show about America's Got Talent a couple times recently. Call this MGT or RGT. Call it Rock's Got Talent, Metal's Got Talent. Moral to the point, though, is local bands will bring local fans, and that'll only add to the festival experience. Um, Number two, treat hydration and shade as infrastructure, not a premium perk. Now, there are obviously water stations and hydration stations that are set up around festivals, but I think that you should have an actual place that's inside, away from the heat. Shade's one thing, but I think being inside, having some sort of maybe not air conditioning, but air place to kind of escape for a bit, would be great. I think I would love to call it something like the crash pit. You already have the mosh pit. Why not have somewhere you can go crash for a little bit between sets? Or if there's a band that you don't really care about next, you can chill in there for even an hour, rehydrate, cool down, and then get back out there. I think you could have like you have at other areas of some festivals, free water refills. You could even have electrolyte dispensers, actual seating, fans, misters, phone charging. Ideally, have one climate controlled indoor tent where feasible. And you could even get sponsors for this. You could have an area where you could even sell Gatorade, Body Armor, Liquid Death, Red Bull, etc. I think it'd be a really neat idea. Aftershock, where close to where I'm at, their current regular VIP includes tree shaded lounge space, comfortable furniture, and a water refill station, while the $2,669 4-day Capital Club includes a private climate controlled lounge. My thing is this: premium viewing, sure, charge extra. Free electrolytes and somewhere to get out of 90-degree heat for 20 minutes. I don't think that basic health and comfort should be the luxury product. So I think that having something where everybody can go to would be a huge addition. Third, let fans actually give them a chance to participate in music. I think if you have a certain area or a certain place you can walk into where you have, a drum, a guitar, vocal workshop where you can, even pay a local teacher to give you lessons and play some instruments, could be scheduled in advance or even by availability at the festival on the day of. Heck, you can even have, gear demos, beginner sessions, clinics with artists who are already appearing at the festival. And continuing with sponsors, this would be a great option for them too. Gibson, Fender, PRS can provide guitars, Pearl Tama can provide drums, Shure can provide microphones. Suddenly, the festival doesn't necessarily have to eat the whole cost of it. Brands get an activation people actually want to visit, local instructors get paid, fans get something they'll forever remember. In addition to that, you can even do scheduled jam sessions too. I mean, imagine four strangers at Aftershock getting thrown together, playing Bring Me to Life or I Miss the Misery in front of 100 people. That's a festival memory, even if it's indoors and they're doing something that they want to do that's fun. And I think that also it's like we talk how much, things get commercialized and stuff. Festival memories like that are way more compelling to me than just another random booth where somebody's just going to hand you a fucking koozie for free or something like that. So I think if you have something like this that can create more festival memories, it will get more people to want to come back. And you don't necessarily have to, eat a ton of cost for that or increase cost. And then finally, this is the big one for me. Bring back artist interaction. More there needs to be more meet and greets. For example, Aftershock, there have been some artists that have done some encore sets or acoustic sets at a beatbox truck they've had there in the past. They even had My Darkest Days, I think either last year or the year before, did a surprise set at the Trimmers Dive Bar that was hosted by Rockfeed. But it's very rare nowadays, and it used to be more of a thing back in the 2010s when they were out at Gibson Ranch or the early years at Discovery Park. I understand it has gotten bigger and has expanded along over the years, but a dedicated autograph tent would make a huge difference and increase the overall experience. And this has been the case at other festivals too, like Louder Than Life, Welcome to Rockville, Sonic Temple. And if they do have them, they're typically behind a ridiculous paywall that can cost thousands of dollars. And why I say this, because I've mentioned a lot of those, festivals like Louder Than Life, Aftershock, and stuff. I don't want to, pick on on just one genre or DWP festivals. This is also the case of other festivals in the U.S. like Bonnaroo, Coachella, Bottle Rock, etc. One thing though that I do find interesting is that in other countries this isn't necessarily the case. For example, Wacken or Rock am Ring in Germany have meet and greet stands or signing tents set up for fans to get cards, albums, and apparel signed. I understand there may be concerns for security, but then just, put the meet and greet or autograph area at a separate part away from the stages, have strict scheduling times for when the artist will be there, and then hire enough security to manage the crowd flow and have capacity limits and a limit of 1 to 2 items per person. And, of course, you want to respect artist time too. So it's, it should be voluntary. Don't make it, where they have to for sure go. Make it an option to say, hey, if you want to do it, great, let's set a time aside, and then they know in advance. You organize it, right? Even if you make the festival an extra $20 to $30 for people to come, they'll accept it if you give them these additional amenities, and they shouldn't be a part of any extra pay plan. If a festival with 80 plus thousand metal fans in Germany can organize schedule artist signings, why is this treated like an impossible logistical problem here in the States? In my opinion, I think there's two options that could be done here to make the festival experience a little bit better. One, and this is a wild idea, although it probably shouldn't be, we can go back to how it was pre 2010s and just not have VIP. Everyone gets access to the same amenities at festivals while paying a tad bit more, as I mentioned before. That's not saying there can't be designated areas for people who need it due to disability, ADA, but it eliminates the idea that some attendees are more important than others, or perhaps we could do something else. Option B, the best compromise is the German festival model, where you don't eliminate VIP entirely, as you still have certain designated areas like at Rock am Ring, where there's an easier path to exit the main stage area, access to better viewing areas, or at Wacken, where there is lounge areas, all-inclusive catering, and even Residence Evil, which is a private camping village with comfortable beds, premium sanitary options, electricity, a barbecue area, and more. It seems to be about €1,000 on average, about $1,200 for the full week from Tuesday to Sunday. But meanwhile, over here, we have options for camping or glamping that aren't nearly as good or are way more expensive, at least double the cost. So here's just my idea of how things can be going forward when it comes to festivals. What I think would be ideal: better viewing, VIP; luxury camping, VIP; catering, VIP; private lounge, VIP. VIP should buy luxury. It shouldn't buy a basic festival experience. Therefore, water, everybody; shade, everybody; festival activities, everybody; band discovery, everybody. And yeah, give the regular fan a chance to meet some of their artists too. I'm not 100% against VIP. I'm against taking things that used to be a part of the festival experience, comfort, interaction, basic amenities, and increasingly turning them into more luxury products. Festivals have gotten really good at figuring out how to suck the most money from the people who walk through the gates. This isn't just the case at festivals, it's the case at sporting events. Everywhere, this has become a problem. Every upgrade, every VIP tier, every add-on, every premium experience has led to more greed and more money. I'd like to see, though, that same creativity put into figuring out how to give those people more once they're inside the doors. Being a great festival is important to get people to come back and retain that fan base, and increase it too, to where more people are saying good things and bringing more people out to see that genre or that kind of music. A great festival shouldn't be just a bunch of concerts happening in the same field. It should give you experiences of a lifetime that you can't get anywhere else. That's just my thought. So, just to recap once again, the four things I think that we should happen if we want to improve it: Battle of the Bands give regional underground bands more of a spotlight and a chance to compete for a spot. Have a better hydration areas, more infrastructure for hydration areas where people have a greater chance to crash and kind of take a break. Let fans participate in the music by being, trying out some instruments, or having jam sessions, or even getting lessons at the festival. And then more meet and greets and have more artist interaction. So that's basically my thought. Let me know your thought. I'd always intrigued to hear what you guys have to say. If there's anything I didn't mention that you feel like that could be improved for festivals, let me know. If there's anything that you want to expand on that I stated, if there's anything you disagree on, please let me know. I'm always open ears when it comes to suggestions and thoughts on that front. And that is going to lead to our album review of the week. This week, we're talking about Tsunami Sea by Spirit Box. This is another group that I'm a big fan of. and a group that exploded in popularity after their first album, Eternal Blue, which had a ton of great hits such as Holy Roller and Circle With Me. The band was formed in 2017 out of Victoria, British Columbia. They are fronted by vocalist Courtney LaPlante, guitarist Mike Stringer, drummer Zev Rosenberg, and bassist Josh Gilbert. They released their music through a partnership with BMG Rights Management and Rise Records, along with an independent vanity label, Pale Chord. Courtney has a much lower voice and is known more for her guttural false chord screams, but she can also belt out some really clean melodies and choruses as well. This album was released back on March 7th, 2025. As I mentioned before, I'm trying to recap albums that are new, but also some that are within the last 18 months from bands. This falls right in that category. It's the band's second studio album after Eternal Blue in 2021. They've had a couple of EPs come out as well, such as Rotoscope in 2022 and The Fear of Fear in 2023. Courtney has also been featured on numerous tracks, most notably End of You with Poppy and Amy Lee, which is fantastic, In Another Life by Crown the Empire, Contraband by Make Them Suffer, and 1000 Painful Stings by The Acacia Strain. Spirit Box has 1.66 million monthly listeners on YouTube Music, about 3.4 million on Spotify. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into this thing here. It's an 11-track album. Track number one, Fata Morgana. The first thing I notice is the super heavy guitar distortion and the overall cinematic buildup makes the vibe very tense. The actual meaning of Fata Morgana is essentially a mirage of a certain object and specifically on the horizon, which goes along with the album title, Tsunami Sea. In here, it's kind of that way, but more so, I think, for a person. We've talked about these themes in other reviews before, but essentially someone putting on a mask to project a level of composure to the outside world, when in reality they're dealing with grief or depression while pretending to be okay. One part of the song mentions pain is just an infinite energy upon my conscience. I really love the tone that this sets going forward. You get the aggressive screams and growls, but also some melodies here with the chorus. So a really solid opening track on this album. After that, we go to Black Rainbow, which is another very intense, quick build-up here too. It sets the tone, but with the guitars and later with the drums. The one thing I'll say is there are times where the distortion's almost been too heavy a little bit, where it kind of hides Courtney's vocals a little much, which annoys me a bit at times. But there's also times I don't mind it, especially if it all leads up to a heavier part with her screams. But I think that it also can be overdone. The meaning was harder for me with this, but then I thought about the one part that we keep hearing repeated, which is dissolve, displace, rejoice, repeat. No pressure here, admit defeat. Now, hear me out here. So, keeping with themes of the ocean, this could be an allegory to depressurization or the bends. Nitrogen dissolves in your blood. It can lead to death, displace, rejoice. This one's kind of interesting because I've actually watched some real life horror, disturbing things around the internet videos. Shout out to Nexpo, of a deep sea diver not making it back, and there was almost this weird sense of peace from the movement and breathing towards the end. So almost a kind of a bizarre sense of euphoria in a way. And then the repeat part of this could almost go back to the theme of Fata Morgana and depression, as in being stuck in a depressive cycle. I think that that's almost certainly right after she says admit defeat. It's a really creative way here to tackle some super dark themes. So yeah, I really enjoyed Black Rainbow. After that, we go on to Perfect Soul. This song's actually the other side of what I really like about Spirit Box. A lot of the time I listen to them and think about their work, it's the heavier side. But songs like this show they are more than capable of elevating their music, even with cleaner vocal work. Definitely more dramatic here. I'm getting that it could just be about the end of a relationship, so it can give a person a chance of becoming something anew. One part of the song states, "So cover up the well and leave a gift to summon the spring." After that, we proceed to Keep Sweet. There's some more poppyish, kind of popish elements in here. We have a seamless, effortless shift from those melodic verses to more heavier vocals. One part of the song states, "I always knew there was a reason my innocence was a keepsake worn around my neck." It's interesting how different artists who grew up religious and how they can see firsthand how it has harmed them or people that they know. And that's not to bash on it for the record. I'm not even sure if that's actually fully what she's talking about here, as Keep Sweet has been used in fundamentalist Mormon churches. So I think that it might even relate potentially more to that instead of religion as a whole. But I'm not sure what else I'm supposed to get other than it being something about religion here, or also in general, it could just be about keeping someone silent or submissive. Now, that could be used as a theme of keeping women down in general against the entire populace. But then later, we do get a part of the song that says, "And everything that happened to me was a talisman I threw like a stone." Again, that's something that can relate to religious imagery. Imagery. So, could be religious, could be against society as a whole. Kind of could be maybe a little bit of both there. And then after that, we go to a completely kick-ass song in Soft Spine. This is the one song that I had heard a little while back, actually, before listening to the whole album. This was even performed on Jimmy Kimmel Live and then at the Grammys as the song was nominated for Best Metal Performance. Also, huge shout out to Jimmy for being the one late night talk show host that has pretty consistently hosted metal acts on his show, such as Poppy and Knocked Loose, along with Ghost, Slipknot, Metallica, and others. This song is a 20 out of 10. It's my favorite Spirit Box song I've heard to date, and here's why. Firstly, as I've heard her state when this song has been played live, it's essentially an anthem against everyone she fucking hates. Secondly, we somehow have super heavy guitar distortion, yet it works in a way where we get one of the sickest grooves imaginable, where I'm not just headbanging, my entire body wants to bump around to the music. What I said about Perfect Soul encapsulating one side of their work, this perfectly defines the other. Heavy, aggressive, and I don't give a fuck apologetic. It's just fiery, fierceful energy all the way through. And finally, at least a portion of who this is about, in my opinion, as a quick aside, I'm going to get some hate right now, and that's fine. While I can't deny that there are songs of Falling in Reverse that I like, I'm not the biggest fan of Ronnie. He's done some good things for sure, but he's also done some really stupid, awful things and said some really stupid things. I've mentioned before how I saw Ice Nine Kills on the Popular Monster tour, and Spirit Box was supposed to be there. Why weren't they? Well, due to backlash from Spirit Box fans after comments that Ronnie made back in 2023, they backed out of the tour, which I'm sure did not make the band happy. In this song, she mentions, quote, "insidious by nature, rewarding sick behavior," essentially artists getting fame or rewards off of controversy. Watch the World Burn by Falling in Reverse, which I can't deny Ronnie kicks ass at, and it's super impressive, essentially paints himself as a king or a godlike figure in the metal or music world. When Courtney says in Soft Spine, quote, "I am a witness to your regicide," it draws a perfect parallel as a king who is losing his support or peers. Now, obviously, Ronnie and Falling in Reverse are still super popular, and I'm sure the song isn't entirely about him. But am I saying you could convince me there's at least one shot being fired in his direction? Absolutely. Regardless, really good song. Love Soft Spine. After that, we continue with Tsunami Sea, and this is just really like my favorite part of the album, this middle part right here. We start by getting sounds of some waves before a heavy bass and drum rhythm that leads to everything crashing back down and starting with beautiful, clean vocals by Courtney. I love how calm everything gets when she says, "I could lay here for hours." The instrumental part of this song is almost like massive waves, and then this goes right along with the lyric as it's peaceful and a welcome break between those other segments. I'm getting that it could just be about always, looking for perfection, but never finding it and how it can affect you emotionally. These two songs with Soft Spine and Tsunami Sea are great back to back. And then from there, speaking of back to back, I mean, A Haven with Two Faces, the crashing, or the waves crashing perfectly fades, right into this song from Tsunami Sea. It's as if it's not two songs, it's the same song just going into a different theme. Really seamless transition here. This album, what I've appreciated the most with Courtney is when she's singing something more melodically, it's either calming or peaceful, or at times maybe sad, where when it's more aggressive, it's pure anger like in Soft Spine. I think it's the same here. Haven is a home, and so it could be about hers, which is Victoria up in British Columbia. The song states, "Under the mountain floating on the sea." The last part I get because Victoria is on Vancouver Island. It's a beautiful area, and that's the point here is, yes, it's beautiful. I'm sure, she's had a lot of good memories there, but also time can destroy it, and that can be done by man or by nature. Again, we've talked about water throughout the album and how it's been a double entendre with emotion. We have that again here with land. She wants her home, in this case for emotions, her mind, to be a place to hide and just have eternal peace. But that's almost impossible in life as you have to deal with being two different people emotionally at times. I think we can go back to Tsunami Sea as that happening there too, with her being at a happy place. But here it goes from peaceful to chaos, so almost the opposite, kind of shaky to calm and then calm to shaky. Also, the album cover shows both of these songs together, kind of in a way, as it's two faces with a line or a wave drawn kind of going through them. I especially appreciate on this song how smooth the transition of the clean to scream was on I Watch as it flows backwards to me. Even if you don't appreciate this album, musically with, everything going on, you have to appreciate the pure creativity of how they've kind of constructed these songs together. So, yeah, all three of these songs in the middle of the album, really well done. A Haven with Two Faces, another great song. We go though from something that I really appreciated and was great to something that I wasn't quite as big of a fan of, which was No Loss, No Love. I'm just not a fan of the electronic parts of this song with the spoken word. Firstly, and I think that this is clear if you've listened to my reviews before, I don't mind electronic elements or implementation of those in metal. You can go back and listen to my Future Palace review if you want more of my thoughts on that. But not at the part it's more featured here. I also am totally fine with spoken word and music. The first person that comes to mind with that is Jim Morrison of The Doors, and it made you really focus on what was being said. And there wasn't a lot of distraction behind what he said back, when he was doing it. Here, there's plenty of that distraction, and I hate that. Now, what I do love about this, though, is how quickly we get to the heavy part of the song, as A Haven with Two Faces ended with the waves and more calm, and here it immediately grabs your attention and tells you to wake up if you were relaxing too much with the music. For themes here, just pure self-destruction. The part of the song that mentions an island of solace beneath a corpse's feet. I can feel something sinister under the surface. The darker thing underneath kind of finally consuming the person we've been hearing about throughout this album in a way. After that, we go on to Crystal Roses, and yeah, again, I'm not a fan of this one here either. The whole song kind of gives off this buildup of anticipation of how are we paying it off, and then never does. The build off to me is almost more distracting than it is anticipating. Just not one of my faves. It's a great album, but these last two songs have kind of been misses for me a little bit. After that, we go to track 10, which is Ride the Wave. The first 3 minutes of the song is almost theatrical, as if Courtney's voice is kind of ominous in a way. It's got a great rhythm to it, but also feels very sad. Then we get harsh screams back after Till I Break. Earlier in this review, I mentioned that in Black Rainbow, how the heavy distortion made her clean vocals kind of hidden in a way. Here, ironically, it actually slightly makes her screams more hidden, and it comes across just a little too messy for me. Part of the song mentions, ride the wave like a message in the bottle. I think, it could just be trying to tuck certain uncomfortable emotions away. Also kind of get more themes of self-hatred here in this, almost, and not allowing positivity because of just being stuck in a depressive cycle. A decent song, but like I mentioned, just the distortion's a little too much. From there, we finish with Deep End. It's pretty interesting because we get some harsher elements and beautiful elements both at the same time here. Part of the song mentions, you're an island with a clear view. I'm a tidal wave. Pull me back to you. Essentially bliss and paradise, but still being stuck or pulled under by darkness and the hope of kind of getting back to shore and getting back to that paradise. Essentially peace versus chaos in a way mentally for someone. I think it's a very dramatic way to close out the album, and I honestly appreciated that last track. My final thoughts on this whole album, the first 2/3 of it I really loved, and then it fell off a little bit for me. I did appreciate Deep End as the closing track, but the heroes for this album are right in the middle for me. Everything from Soft Spine to Tsunami Sea to A Haven with Two Faces. There were certain elements that I didn't like here in this album, but there were also others that worked really well, and the creativity was a 10 out of 10. So I think in general, when it comes to creativity, music, everything, and I have to weigh it all together, it's a 7.5 out of 10 for me. I think I liked Eternal Blue, their first album, slightly more, but this is still a really solid piece of work. But yeah, if you want to hear Spirit Box and you want to hear their newer stuff, listen to Soft Spine, listen to Tsunami Sea, and A Haven with Two Faces. You won't be disappointed. All of those songs are really solid. And that is going to lead us to our final topic of the week, and that is our band of the week, which this week is Red Hook, a rock band out of Sydney, Australia that formed back in 2017 by vocalist Emmy Mack. They also have guitarist Craig Wilkinson, drummer Alex Powers, and bassist Ned Jankovic. It's alternative rock, but kind of mixed with pop punk and metalcore elements all in one. They have two studio albums, including Postcard from a Living Hell that came out in 2023 and Mutation, which was released in late 2024. They do have various singles that were released throughout their first few years as a band, such as Dead Walk in 2020 and an EP titled Bad Decisions in 2021, with Bad Decisions, that track being on there, which is one of their more popular songs. Mutation was nominated for Best Hard Rock Heavy Metal Album at the ARIA, the Australian Recording Industry Association Music Awards, in 2025. They have roughly 160,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. Emmy has a really versatile voice because she can go from this almost more bratty pop punk delivery into these bigger melodic choruses, but then the band can suddenly get much heavier and she'll implement some screams out there as well. That's kind of the appeal of the band is they're catchy and accessible, but there's also enough heaviness and weirdness mixed in that they don't just sound like another straightforward rock band. This is actually a band that I got a chance to see back in May when they were on tour with Vana, Deadlands, and Eyes Set to Kill. I believe Bad Decisions was their last song, and I remember Emmy coming out into the crowd where like the mosh pit was in the middle, and the place was kind of just rocking like a party. There were beach balls flying around, bubbles in the air, just tons of energy in the room, which is a great way to start the entire night as they were the opening act. The most popular song, as I mentioned, is Bad Decisions, came out as a single in 2021. Also, Dead Walk, which was a single in 2020. And then Low Budget Horror, which is off of their first album, Postcard from a Living Hell. Most underrated song for me, or one of my favorite songs, I would say. There's a few songs off their debut album, but for me, Low Budget Horror is not one of my favorites. I really do like Jabberwocky, also Imposter with Yours Truly. I love how that just builds up and Emmy's voice really comes across super strong. The beat's super infectious too. So yeah, if you've never listened to Red Hook, start with Jabberwocky and Imposter. I think this is a band that definitely deserves some attention. They've got some good stuff out there. And that is pretty much going to do it for this week's show. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. I'm happy to bring this out as I haven't felt super great today, but I still had to bring a show out to everybody. And, I absolutely love doing this. My schedule's starting to get a little more packed as sports are starting back up for me when it comes to college, high school stuff. But I still will be getting an episode out to you every week, regardless if it's shorter than ones that we've done before or if it does still end up being full-length episodes. I've appreciated it, and my whole thing is every week that I'm doing these shows, I'm learning more. I'm learning more about other bands. I'm learning more about certain things in music. As you maybe learn more from listening to the show, I'm learning more from the research I'm doing. I'm learning more from the people I'm talking to. Valkyrie Voices has been huge for me so far. I've really loved being able to try to create thought-provoking comments or thought-provoking questions that can lead to those really good comments from artists in the scene or people in metal media. So I'm looking forward to continue doing that, and I will have another Valkyrie Voices segment next week on the show, this time highlighting another group of incredible people in rock and metal and their thoughts on a separate question. I'll have another band of the week, plus an album that I've been looking forward to for literal months now, The Warning Everything's Falling, which comes out next Friday. I'm looking forward to that. But for now, that's going to do it for episode 9. Thanks, as always, for tuning in and all the support. Again, the amount of subscribers that have come in this past week has been overwhelming, but it has been super appreciative. So, keep tuning in, keep liking it, keep sharing this out there if you like what you're hearing. And yes, we will also be talking more about Nene Royal next week on the show and how she did on this week's America's Got Talent. So stay tuned for that. But that'll do it for episode 9. Until next time, keep on rocking. Peace out, everybody.